tiny coils, some smaller than a human hair, made of metals like tungsten that require super high melting points, were found buried deep in ancient Russian soil, layers dating back hundreds of thousands of years. Imagine a modern-looking hammer, complete with a wooden handle, found embedded inside rock, said to be from the time of dinosaurs, over 65 million years old. And what about a curiously intricate metal pot, reportedly blasted out of solid rock that was supposedly formed 600 million years ago? Or mysterious metallic spheres, some with perfectly etched grooves, have been dug out of mineral deposits in South Africa that are an astonishing 2.8 billion years old. These aren't props from a science fiction movie. They're actual objects that have left scientists scratching their heads, primarily because their ages just don't seem to line up with what we think we know about the past. Get ready to explore some truly mind-boggling artifacts that science is still trying to figure out, especially when it comes to pinning down just how old they really are or how they came to be. Number 8. The Dorchester Pot. Picture this. It's 1852 in Dorchester, Massachusetts. Workers are blasting rock, a common enough activity for construction and quarrying back then. But during one such explosion, something totally unexpected happens. According to a report in the Scientific American that same year, a metallic, bell-shaped vessel, just 4.5 inches high, was thrown out by the force of the blast. 2 halves of this pot were reportedly found among the debris, separated by the explosion. Now, this wasn't just any rock. The report mentioned the pot was embedded in what was described as pudding stone, or more technically, Roxbury conglomerate, a type of rock formation. What's the big deal about Roxbury conglomerate? Well, geologists date this particular rock formation back to the Ediacaran period, somewhere between 570 and 600 million years ago. Yes, million. That's a time long before complex life, let alone humans capable of metalwork, were thought to exist on Earth. The pot itself was described as being made of a zinc and silver alloy, with the silver content being considerable. The sides were apparently decorated with 6 figures of a flower or bouquet, beautifully inlaid with pure silver, and around the lower part of the vessel, a vine or wreath also inlaid with silver. This suggests a high degree of craftsmanship. Think about it. Intricate floral designs and vine patterns, inlaid with pure silver on a metal pot. So you have a finely crafted metal pot, apparently blasted out from rock that is hundreds of millions of years old. How could that even be possible? If the pot was truly embedded within this ancient rock, it would imply that sophisticated metalworking existed long before the dinosaurs, let alone humans. This is where the science can't date part really kicks in. The rock has an estimated age, a very, very old one. But the pot, how do you date the pot itself? Especially now. Here's a frustrating twist. The Dorchester Pot has since vanished. We only have the 1852 account and a few subsequent mentions to go by. Without the actual Beckett to study using modern scientific methods, it's incredibly difficult to verify the claims or conduct further analysis. Was the pot truly inside the solid rock? Or was it perhaps in a looser deposit that got mixed up in the explosion? Was the rock correctly identified? Could the pot have fallen into a crevice or been buried at a much later date, only to be dislodged with the ancient rock? The original account in Scientific American itself was somewhat questioning, pondering how it got there. The lack of the physical object means scientists today can't perform metallurgical analysis to confirm its composition or look for microscopic evidence of its surroundings. They can't try to date any organic material that might have been attached to it or trapped within it. So the age of the pot and how it came to be found in such an extraordinary context remains an open question, a historical puzzle based on a fleeting glimpse of something that, if true, would rewrite a lot of history books. The mystery of the Dorchester Pot lingers, a tantalizing what if, fueled by a 170-year-old report of an impossible find. Number 7. The Aiud Hammer. Let's travel to Romania, 1974. Workers digging on the banks of the Mureș River, not far from the town of Aiud, stumbled upon something truly peculiar. Buried about 33 feet, 10 meters, deep in the sand, alongside two fossilized mastodon bones, they found a strange, wedge-shaped metallic object. Mastodons, if you're not up on your prehistoric megafauna, are ancient relatives of elephants that went extinct around 10,000 to 11,000 years ago. So, finding anything man-made alongside their bones is already pretty interesting. But this object was more than just interesting. It was baffling. It looked somewhat like a hammerhead, though its exact purpose isn't clear. It weighs about 5 pounds, 2.3 kilograms, and measures roughly 8 inches long by 5 inches wide by 3 inches thick. What really set alarm bells ringing was its composition. Initial tests reportedly conducted at an institute in Cluj-Napoca suggested the object was made up of an alloy of 12 different metals, with the main component being aluminum, around 89% of. The object was also covered in a thick oxide layer, said to be about a millimeter thick. Why is aluminum such a big deal? Well, aluminum is a metal that doesn't occur naturally in its pure form. It has to be extracted from ores like bauxite through a complex process called electrolysis, which requires large amounts of electricity. This process wasn't invented until the 1880s, and aluminum wasn't produced on an industrial scale until the early 20th century. So finding an object that is predominantly aluminum buried alongside bones from an animal that died out at least 10,000 years ago presents a major chronological headache. The oxide layer is also part of the puzzle. Some reports claimed that the thickness of the aluminum oxide layer suggested the object could be hundreds of years old, if not older. Aluminum naturally forms a protective oxide layer when exposed to air, but for it to become significantly thick usually takes a very long time, or specific conditions. Some researchers who examined it apparently suggested it could be at least 300 to 400 years old. Based on this oxidation, though dating aluminum precisely through its oxide layer is not straightforward. So how do you reconcile an aluminum object, a hallmark of modern industry, with mastodon bones and a burial depth that suggests significant antiquity? If the object is genuinely as old as the bones it was found with, say 11,000 years or more, then who made it, and how? Technology to produce aluminum simply wasn't supposed to exist back then. Attempts to date the object directly, or to firmly establish its context, have been challenging. The fact it was found by workers not in a controlled archaeological dig adds a layer of uncertainty about its exact position and association with the mastodon bones. Could it have been a modern piece of equipment that somehow got deeply buried, perhaps apart from a World War II aircraft, as some have speculated? Although its specific alloy composition doesn't perfectly match typical aircraft aluminum from that era, according to some analyses. Others point to its unique shape, not quite matching any known modern tool or machine part. The Aiud Hammer, as it came to be known, has been housed in various museums in Romania, including the National Museum of Transylvanian History in Cluj-Napoca. Its story continues to fascinate those interested in out-of-place artifacts. Is it evidence of a lost ancient civilization with advanced technology, or a more mundane modern object whose discovery context was misunderstood or became exaggerated over time? Without definitive, universally accepted scientific dating of the object itself that reconciles it with its discovery context, the Aiud hammer remains a perplexing piece of metal stubbornly refusing to fit neatly into our established timelines of technological development. Number 6. The Denisovan Bracelet. Deep within the Altai Mountains of Siberia lies a place called Denisova Cave. It's not just any cave. It's a treasure trove for paleoanthropologists. For tens of thousands of years, it was home to ancient humans, including Neanderthals, and another more mysterious group, the Denisovans. We know about Denisovans mostly from tiny fragments of bone and teeth, from which scientists have managed to extract ancient DNA, revealing them as a distinct branch of the human family tree, cousins to both Neanderthals and modern humans. In 2008, archaeologists excavating in Denisova Cave found something truly remarkable in a layer dated to between 40,000 and 50,000 years ago. It wasn't a bone or a tooth this time, but a small fragment of a highly polished green stone bracelet. The bracelet is made from chlorite, a mineral that isn't found locally near the cave, meaning its raw material had to be sourced from at least 120 miles away. This already suggests a level of planning and resourcefulness. But what makes this bracelet so astonishingly advanced is not just its material or the distance it traveled. It's the craftsmanship. The fragment shows that the original bracelet was beautifully made, with a polished surface that would have shone with a deep green luster. Most incredibly, near one of the drilled holes that would have been used to string it or attach something to it, there's evidence of a tiny, precise hole less than half an inch from the outer edge. Russian scientists who examined it concluded that this hole was made using a high-speed drill, something akin to a bow drill, but with a remarkable level of stability and precision. They observed that the hole showed signs of being worked from both sides, with a technique that implies a very steady hand and a tool capable of sustained rapid rotation. The level of skill involved in making such a delicate and precise feature on a stone bracelet 50,000 years ago is what has caused so much debate and wonder. At that time, the tools available to ancient humans were generally thought to be much cruder. Stone tool technology of that era, known as the Middle Paleolithic, wasn't typically associated with the kind of fine, high-speed drilling seen on the Denisovan bracelet. So how could a Denisovan, an archaic human relative, possess the technology or the skill to create such an object? The bracelet is considered by some researchers to be more characteristic of the Upper Paleolithic or even Neolithic periods, which came much later and are associated with modern humans and more advanced toolkits. The dating of the layer where the bracelet was found is fairly secure, using established archaeological and geological methods. This isn't a case of science can't date the Beck's layer. Puzzle is that the Beckett itself seems far too sophisticated for its scientifically determined age and for the presumed technological capabilities of Denisovans. Challenges our understanding of their cognitive and technical abilities. Could Denisovans have been much more advanced than previously thought? Did they develop these skills independently? Or was there some kind of cultural exchange with early modern humans who might have been migrating into the region around that time, though evidence for modern humans in Denisova Cave that early is sparse? Or is our understanding of ancient tool capabilities too limited? The bracelet itself is a beautiful object, a testament to ancient artistry, but it's also a profound scientific puzzle. It doesn't fit neatly. It pushes the boundaries of what we thought archaic humans were capable of. It suggests that the story of human technological and artistic development might be more complex and perhaps more ancient in some respects than we currently appreciate. The Denisovan bracelet forces us to ask, who were these ancient people, and what other surprising skills and creations might they have left behind, still waiting to be discovered? Science can date the context, but reconciling that date with the object's sheer sophistication is the ongoing challenge. Number 5. The Woolseg Iron, Salzburg Cubit. Imagine digging for coal in the late 19th century and finding something that looks like it was made by intelligent hands, embedded within a seam of ancient fuel. That's exactly what reportedly happened in 1885 at a coal mine in Wolfsegg, am Hausruck, Austria. A workman named Riedel, or one of his colleagues, broke open a block of lignite, a type of brown coal, and discovered a peculiar iron-like cube nestled inside. This object, which became known as the Wolfsegg iron or the Salzburg cubit after being exhibited at the Salzburg Museum, wasn't a perfect cube. It was described as being roughly cuboid, about 2.64 inches by 2.64 inches by 1.85 inches, weighing around 1.73 pounds. It had a deep incision, or groove, running almost all the way around its middle. Two of its opposing faces were convex or rounded, while the other faces were relatively flat. Its color was described as a dark, steel-like hue. The initial excitement was immense. Coal seam from which it was reportedly extracted was dated to the Tertiary period, making it millions of years old. If a metallic, seemingly manufactured object was found genuinely embedded in coal that old, it would throw a serious wrench into the established timeline of human evolution and technological development. Humans, as we know them, simply weren't around millions of years ago, let alone capable of forging iron objects. Early examinations fueled the mystery. In 1886, mining engineer Adolf Gerlt studied the object and suggested it was a meteorite, given its composition, which he thought included nickel. However, meteorites don't typically have such regular, almost machined-looking shapes with precise grooves. Later analyses, including one by the Natural History Museum in Vienna in the 1960s, reportedly found no significant nickel content, casting doubt on the meteorite theory. These analyses suggested it was more like cast iron, but with some unusual properties, such as a lack of expected sulfur. Here's where the dating becomes a real head-scratcher. Coal is ancient. If the object was truly sealed within an unbroken block of this ancient coal, then the object must logically be at least as old as the coal. But an iron object, especially one that looks worked or cast millions of years old, that's the core of the problem. Science can date the coal deposits, but how do you definitively date the iron object itself and, more importantly, its embedment? Over the years, various theories have emerged. Some suggested it was an ancient Bapik from a lost civilization. Others proposed more mundane explanations. Could it have been a piece of old mining equipment that fell into a crevice and became encrusted with coal dust and minerals over a much shorter period? Or perhaps it was a weight for a primitive loom or a fishing net? One of the most frustrating aspects of the Wolfsegg iron story is that the original object has apparently been lost since sometime after 1910. We are left with casts, photographs, and historical accounts. Without the original, modern, non-destructive analytical techniques cannot be applied to try and determine its precise composition, how it was made, forged, cast, or otherwise, or if there are any microscopicated into the coal. Was it truly found inside a solid block of ancient coal, as the initial reports claimed? Or was the context misunderstood or exaggerated? The miners at the time were apparently convinced of its strange origin. But without the primary evidence, scientific verification of its age and origin becomes incredibly difficult. The Wolfsegg iron remains a classic out-of-place backup, a story of a seemingly artificial object found in a context that defies conventional understanding. The coal's age is known, but the object's age and its journey into that coal is a mystery that science can't fully resolve without the Beckett itself. Number 4. The Klerksdorp Spheres. Get ready for something really, really old. We're talking billions of years old. In the pyrophyllite mines near Ottestau in the western Transvaal region of South Africa, miners have for decades been finding these strange little metallic-looking spheres. They're not just ordinary rocks. They're quite distinct. These objects have become known as the Klerksdorp spheres, and they are at the center of a fascinating debate. What are they? Well, they are small, typically ranging from about 1/10 of an inch to 4 inches in diameter. They are generally spherical or ovoid in shape. Their color can vary from a dark reddish-brown to a more metallic blue-gray. Some are solid metal, reportedly an iron-nickel alloy, while others are described as being hollow with a fibrous material inside that turns to dust when exposed. The most striking feature of some of these spheres is the presence of perfectly parallel grooves running around their circumference, almost as if they were machine-etched. Some spheres have 1, 2, or even 3 such grooves, often centered precisely around the equator of the sphere. These grooves look remarkably regular and artificial. Now, here's the mind-blowing part. The pyrophyllite deposits where these spheres are found are geologically dated to be around 2.8 to 3 billion years old. That's billion with a B. This is the Precambrian period, a time when the only life on Earth was single-celled organisms like bacteria and algae. There were no complex life forms, no animals, and certainly no humans capable of metallurgy or precision engineering. So, if these spheres, especially those with the seemingly artificial grooves, were indeed manufactured, who or what could have made them 2.8 billion years ago? This is the central enigma of the Klerksdorp spheres. The age of the rock layer they are found in is well established through standard geological dating methods. But how do you date the spheres themselves? And how do you explain their formation if they are not natural? Many geologists propose that the Klerksdorp spheres are natural geological formations called concretions. Concretions are masses of mineral matter that form within sedimentary rock, often around a nucleus, as minerals precipitate out of water. They can sometimes form surprisingly spherical shapes. The argument is that the spheres formed naturally through processes of mineralization and weathering over vast geological timescales. The grooves, according to this view, could be the result of natural layering or cracking patterns within the concretion as it formed, or as the surrounding rock compacted. However, those who find the natural explanation less convincing point to the extreme regularity of the spheres, the metallic nature of some, the hollow interiors of others, and especially those incredibly precise parallel grooves. Could natural processes really create such features repeatedly? Some of the spheres are also said to be remarkably well balanced. The debate often comes down to interpretation of features. What one scientist sees as clear evidence of natural concretion formation, another might see as suggestive of artificial manufacture. The challenge for science isn't necessarily dating the pyrophyllite. That's done. The challenge is explaining the origin of these specific objects within that ancient context, especially if one considers the possibility of artificiality. How do you scientifically prove or disprove that a groove was man-made, or alien-made, as some inevitably suggest, versus naturally formed, especially on an object billions of years old? Klerksdorp spheres have been collected by miners and rockhounds for years. Some are in private collections, others in museums like the Klerksdorp Museum in South Africa. They continue to fascinate and perplex. Are they just unusually symmetrical and patterned natural rocks, geological oddities? Or are they something more? A hint of processes or intelligences that existed on Earth in the deepest, darkest regions of prehistoric time, long before our current understanding of life's history allows. The spheres sit there, silently posing these very big questions. Number 3. The Baigong Pipes. Imagine a remote, desolate, and largely uninhabited area. Now imagine finding in this very place a system of what appear to be ancient iron pipes, some leading into a mysterious cave, others found on the shores of a nearby saltwater lake. This is the scene that reportedly unfolded near Mount Beigong in China's Denisovan province, a sparsely populated region. The discovery of these Beigong pipes has sparked a lot of curiosity and head-scratching. The story gained wider attention around the early 2000s when reports emerged about these unusual formations. The main site is a pyramid-shaped hill about 50 to 60 meters high, which is said to have 3 triangular caves at its front. 2 of these caves have apparently collapsed, but the largest one, about 6 meters deep, is accessible. Inside this cave and embedded in the rock are reportedly dozens of these tube-like structures, ranging in diameter from a mere couple of centimeters up to 40 centimeters, about 1.5 feet. They are described as being a reddish-brown color, similar to rusted iron. More of these pipes are said to be scattered across the shores of nearby Lake Holsan, a saltwater lake. Some are protruding from the rocks or the beach, while others are apparently submerged beneath the lake's surface. Some are just fragments, while others are longer sections. The layout seems almost deliberate to some observers, with pipes of various diameters. What makes these pipes so puzzling is their apparent age and composition. Initial analysis performed by a local smeltery reportedly found that the pipes are composed mainly of iron oxide, with a significant percentage of silicon dioxide and calcium oxide. Intriguingly, some reports mentioned that about 8% of the material could not be identified. The pipes also contain traces of other elements. Here's the real kicker. Geologists have estimated the age of the rock in which these pipes are embedded to be extremely old. Some estimates place the surrounding rock formation, a type of sandstone, in the Cretaceous period, which means it could be 65 million years old or even older, potentially up to 150 million years if it's Jurassic. If the pipes were formed at the same time as the rock or were placed there before the rock fully solidified, then they too would be incredibly ancient. And iron pipes potentially manufactured from the time of dinosaurs. That's a paradigm-shattering idea. So, how did these pipes get there, and who or what made them? Scientists have, of course, looked for natural explanations. One theory is that they are fossilized tree roots or reeds that underwent a geological process called diagenesis, where minerals replaced the organic material, leaving behind iron-rich casts. The hollow structure and the presence of plant-like material in some samples are cited as evidence for this. Iron-rich fluids could have percolated through spaces left by decayed roots solidifying over time. However, others find this explanation insufficient, especially given the uniform diameters of some pipes, their seemingly metallic nature, and their arrangement. The high iron content is also unusual for typical fossilized wood. Some of the pipes reportedly show signs of being worked or having a distinct internal structure. The dating is a huge problem. While the surrounding rock has an age, directly dating the pipes themselves has proven difficult. Thermoluminescence dating was reportedly attempted on quartz crystals from the sandstone encasing the pipes, which gave an age of around 140 to 150 years for when the sandstone last saw sunlight before becoming rock. This is much younger than the Cretaceous, but still incredibly old for iron pipes, if they are artificial. However, this dating refers to the sediment, not necessarily the pipes themselves or when they were formed or placed. The Beigong pipes remain an enigma. Are they a peculiar natural geological phenomenon, perhaps related to fluid escape structures or unusual fossilization? Or are they evidence of something far more mysterious, an ancient, unknown technology, or even, as some more imaginative theories propose, evidence of extraterrestrial visitation? The location is remote, making extensive, long-term scientific investigation challenging. Without more conclusive research and universally accepted explanations, the Bagong pipes stand as a strange anomaly, a set of ancient pipelines in the middle of nowhere, questioning our understanding of what was possible on Earth long, long ago. Number 2. The Aiud Hammer, or London Hammer. Let's step back into the 19th century, specifically to June 1844 in Aiud Quarry, Scotland. Stonemasons were working, cutting blocks of sandstone. As one particular block was being dressed, it apparently split open, and inside, nestled within the stone, was an iron hammerhead. This wasn't just any hammerhead. It was described as being about 8 inches long with a 1-inch diameter head. More, part of the wooden handle was still attached and partially petrified, or mineralized. Now, the sandstone from Aiud Quarry belongs to the Lower Old Red Sandstone Formation, which geologists date to the Devonian period. How old is the Devonian period? We're talking roughly 360 to 419 million years ago. This is an era when the first forests were appearing on Earth and amphibians were just beginning to venture onto land. Humans, or anything remotely resembling human ancestors capable of making iron tools, were hundreds of millions of years away. So the discovery of a seemingly modern-looking iron hammerhead, complete with part of its wooden handle inside rock from the Devonian period, was, to put it mildly, astonishing. Sir David Brewster, a famous Scottish physicist and principal of St. Andrews University at the time, reported this find to the British Association for the Advancement of Science in 1845. He noted that the hammer was found in a block of stone that was at least 8 or 9 feet thick, and that the spot where it was found was 6 feet from the side of the block and 2 feet from the upper surface of the stratum. This description implied it was well and truly embedded. Fast forward to the 20th century, and a similar, perhaps even more famous object, often conflated with, or perhaps analogous to, the Aiud find, is the London Hammer. This package was reportedly found in London, Texas, in 1936 or 1934, accounts vary, by a couple named Max Hahn and his wife Emma while hiking near Red Creek. They noticed a piece of wood protruding from a loose rock nodule. They took it home, and about a decade later their son Max broke open the nodule, revealing an iron hammerhead attached to the partially petrified wooden handle. The rock encasing the London Hammer was identified by some as Ordovician period, limestone, around 440 to 480 million years old, or Cretaceous period rock, around 65 to 145 million years old. Both are incredibly ancient. The hammer itself looks remarkably modern in design, similar to a carpenter's or blacksmith's hammer from the 19th or early 20th century. The metal of the head is reportedly over 96% iron, with some chlorine and sulfur, an unusual composition for modern smelted iron, which some say suggests it might be older or made by a different process. The wooden handle shows signs of partial colefication or petrification. Here lies the great dating dilemma. For artifacts like the Aiud Hammer and the London Hammer, the rock they are found in is ancient. Geologists can date these rock strata with a good degree of confidence, using various methods. But how does a relatively modern-looking tool get inside ancient rock? Skeptics suggest that these are not ancient artifacts at all. In the case of the London Hammer, the rock it was found in is argued to be a concretion. Concretions can form relatively quickly, sometimes in decades or centuries, around a pre-existing object, especially in mineral-rich water. So, a 19th century hammer could have been dropped, fallen into a crevice, and then had minerals from dissolving limestone precipitate around it, forming a hard rock-like shell. Partial petrification of the handle could also occur under such conditions, over a shorter timescale than millions of years. However, supporters of its antiquity point to the quality of the iron, claiming it doesn't show significant rust as one might expect from a 19th century tool exposed to such conditions for over a century, and that its composition is unusual. For the Aiud hammer, the original 19th century account seems to strongly suggest it was found within a solid block of quarried sandstone, not a loose concretion, directly dating the hammerheads themselves using methods like carbon-14 dating isn't possible because they are metal. Carbon-14 dating can be used on organic material like the wooden handles. In the 1980s, Carl Baugh, who acquired the London hammer, claimed that tests were done on the wooden handle, but the results had been controversial and not widely accepted by the scientific community, with some suggesting the wood could be relatively recent or the tests inconclusive due to contamination or the nature of the partial petrification. So, what are we left with? We have these accounts of hammers, found in contexts that suggest immense age. Science can date the rock strata, but it struggles to definitively date the event of the hammer's encasement or the hammer itself in a way that satisfies everyone. Are these objects modern tools that became encased in rapidly forming concretions, their stories later embellished, or are they genuine, out-of-place artifacts that hint at a history far stranger than we imagine? Without universally agreed upon dating of the objects that reconciles them with their geological context, these hammers remain powerful symbols of the unexplained. Number 1. The nanospirals of the Ural Mountains. This final case takes us to the Ural Mountains in Russia, specifically to the banks of rivers like Narada, Kazim, and Balbanu. Starting in the early 1990s, gold prospectors and scientists conducting geological research in these areas began to find something truly bizarre. Thousands upon thousands of tiny, coil-shaped objects. And when we say tiny, we mean it. Some are as small as 1/10th of an inch smaller than a human hair. The largest are just over an inch long. These aren't just random bits of wire. They are perfectly formed spirals, often with dimensions that seem to adhere to the golden ratio, a mathematical proportion found in nature, but also used in art and design for its aesthetic appeal. Microscopic examination revealed that these objects are made of various metals. The larger ones are mostly copper, but the smallest ones are made from tungsten and molybdenum, or alloys thereof. Now, why is this a big deal? Tungsten and molybdenum are not metals you just stumble upon and easily work with. Tungsten, for instance, has an incredibly high melting point of 3,422 degrees Celsius, 6,192 degrees Fahrenheit. Molybdenum's melting point is also very high, at 2,623 degrees Celsius, 4,753 degrees Fahrenheit. To shape these metals into tiny, perfect coils would require advanced metallurgical techniques, including high temperatures and specialized tools, something akin to nanotechnology by today's standards. Here's where the dating aspect becomes truly mind-bending. These nanospirals were found buried in layers of sediment at depths ranging from 10 to 40 feet, 3 to 12 meters. The geological strata in which they were discovered have been dated by Russian research institutes, such as the Central Scientific Research Institute for Geology and Prospecting for Base and Precious Metals, ZNIGRI, in Moscow. According to these studies, the age of these layers ranges from the Upper Pleistocene to the Upper Pliocene epochs. That means they could be anywhere from 20,000 years old to get this potentially 318,000 years old or even older, depending on the specific layer and dating interpretation. So we have microscopic, perfectly formed coils made of high-tech metals like tungsten, found in geological layers that are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of years old. At that time in Earth's history, human technology was limited to stone tools, fire, and perhaps some basic bone and wood implements. The idea of anyone or anything manufacturing tungsten nanospirals 300,000 years ago is, to put it mildly, completely outside our current understanding of technological history. How could these objects have been made? And by whom? Naturally, there have been attempts to find a conventional explanation. Could they be byproducts of some unknown natural, geological, or chemical process? No known natural process can account for the creation of such perfectly regular metallic spirals, especially from metals like tungsten. Could they be contamination from modern industrial activity, or rocket launches as some initially speculated? This was investigated. The objects were found at significant depths in undisturbed sedimentary layers that predate any modern industrial activity in the region. The distribution and the way they were embedded in the clay and gravel also argued against recent contamination. The researchers who found them were adamant about the in situ nature of the finds. The analysis of the metals themselves, the precision of the coils, their tiny size, and the ancient context of their discovery have left scientists largely stumped for a conventional answer. The Russian Academy of Sciences, in several reports from their institutes in Syktyvkar, Moscow, and St. Petersburg, acknowledged the finds, their composition, and the puzzling nature of their origin. The science can't date aspect here is multi-layered. The geological layers have been dated, yielding ancient ages. But how do you date the spirals themselves to confirm they are contemporaneous with those layers beyond their embedded context? And more profoundly, how do you date the origin of a technology that simply shouldn't exist in that time frame? It's a technology without a known historical maker or manufacturing process for that era. Are these nanospirals evidence of a highly advanced, lost ancient civilization on Earth? Or perhaps, as some have dared to suggest, could they be remnants of extraterrestrial activity, perhaps from a probe or a crashed spacecraft? These are, of course, highly speculative ideas, born out of the sheer anomaly of the artifacts. The Ural nanospirals remain one of the most perplexing and challenging out-of-place Beckett discoveries. They are tangible. They have been studied, their composition is known, and their discovery context points to extreme antiquity. Yet, their existence and the technology they imply are completely at odds with the established narrative of the past. They sit as a tiny metallic question mark, challenging our understanding of history, technology, and perhaps even who we think we are. The mystery of their origin, and how they came to be buried deep in the Ural soil so long ago, is far from solved.